On the surface, One Piece seems like a cheerful shonen adventure series. In many ways, it is exactly that. But it also has its share of deeply disturbing moments. That's what makes it so complex. It doesn't just stick to one mood, and it explores its world in all of its facets. Some of these shocking anime scenes revolve around enslavement, cruelty, child experimentation, illness, and other devastating subjects. Which ones upset you the most? Number 1. Mary Geoise is home to the world nobles. It's also home to multiple enslaved people who keep things running so that the world nobles can live in luxury. This is already disturbing enough on its face, but it's even more disturbing when you see what they go through. For example, the Hancock sisters were forced to eat devil fruits for their master's amusement. All of them were branded with the hoof of the soaring dragon. The suffering doesn't stop there, either. There are countless examples of horrifying mistreatment. Number 2. Sindri was once an actor who Dr. Hogback was romantically obsessed with. When she perished, Dr. Hogback stole her body and revived it as an obedient zombie servant. He claimed to have no use for her personality and essentially rewrote it in order to be more pleasing to him. To keep her in line, he did things like kick her and make her lick the floor. It's great that she was eventually able to assert her own will, but the fact that any of that happened at all is horrifying. Number 3. Sanji's father, Vinsmoke Judge, is one of the worst dads in anime history, and this really crystallizes the reason. When Judge decides that there's no way Sanji will meet his expectations, he decides to pretend that his son perished and holds a funeral for him. Meanwhile, he locks him in a dungeon with a metal mask over his face. His siblings eventually figure out what's going on, which leads his sister to try to help him, and his brothers to come to harass him further. Eventually, he escapes with his sister's help, but not before going through some serious misery first. Number 4. Trafalgar Law grew up in a city called Flavance, which was beset by a serious illness called Amber-Lead syndrome. This disease was not contagious, but the world government acted as if it was and put the city under quarantine. But they took it further than that. Law's parents were taken out by an extermination crew, and the hospital they ran was burned out. In order to escape with his life, Law had no choice but to hide under a pile of remains that were being shipped out of the city. All of this when he was just a little boy. Number 5. The Don Quixote family were once members of the world nobles, which meant that they could live in the lap of luxury, as long as they were okay with forced labor making it happen. Homing Don Quixote didn't want his family to live a privileged life off the backs of others, so he left the world nobles and tried to turn over a new leaf. Unfortunately, this meant living in poverty so severe that it ended his wife's life. It also meant dealing with the scorn of the people who hated the world nobles and didn't care that the Don Quixotes had repudiated them too. Hominged, Da Flamengo, and Rosinante ended up being punished and hung from a wall. This experience was a major contributing factor to Da Flamengo's later villainy. Number 6. Caesar Clown is just about the least ethical scientist imaginable. While most of his experiments are entirely self-serving, he tricks his subjects into thinking that he's experimenting on them for the good of humanity. These subjects are children that he stole. Not only does he lie to them, but he also feeds them dependency-forming substances to prevent them from leaving. The experiments are painful and will result in the subjects passing away within 5 years. Number 7. Few things are more heartbreaking than a little girl watching her father be executed. Shimatsuki Yasui sacrificed himself in order to mislead the shogun and help with Kojiki Momonosuke's revolutionary efforts. But he probably didn't plan for Toko to watch it happen. But she did, and she was as miserable as one would expect. She even tried to heal him using Usopp's toad oil, but it was to no avail. This scene hurt even more because thanks to eating a smile, Toko could not fully express her emotions even though she was clearly devastated. Number 8. As a child, Charlotte Linlin had a completely insatiable appetite and a tendency to destroy everything around her. When she was 5, her parents left her on Elbaf Island in the care of Mother Carmel. It seemed like things were going well at first, but she ended up going on a rampage during a 12-day fast. In order to get away from the wrath of the Elbaf residents, Mother Carmel took Linlin to another location, where they celebrated her birthday with delicious treats. Linlin was so happy that she ended up eating everything around her, including Mother Carmel and the kids from the sheep's house. Perhaps the most upsetting thing about this is that Linlin was probably better off afterward. Carmel pretended to be nice, but she was actually planning on selling Linlin into bondage. She saved herself from that gruesome fate. Number 9. No form of execution is going to be pretty, but Kojaki Odin's demise is particularly grisly. He's submerged in boiling oil, but he holds his men over his head on scaffolding in order to try and protect them from the same fate. The pain is undoubtedly excruciating, but he insists on staying positive throughout the whole thing, dramatically claiming that Odin isn't Odin unless it's boiled. But his bravado soon comes to an end when Kaido shoots him in the head. Number 10. Bartholomew Kuma caused the Straw Hats a lot of trouble, but that didn't make it any easier to see what became of him. Dr. Vegapunk modified his body to turn him into a pacifista, that is, a superpowered cyborg. Eventually, this led to him losing his free will, personality, and memory. He is now enslaved and for rent, to be used for whatever purposes the world government desires. Knowing that that's his fate is just heartbreaking. Do you agree with our lists or did we miss something? Write it down in the comment section. Also, don't forget to subscribe.